Welcome to The Code. Construction, design and engineering. This is India's #1 construction podcast.
So you worked across India, Singapore, Ireland. How have these varied contexts shaped your design philosophy?
Right. So I think design philosophy is not something very constant. It evolves as you move, as you graduate, as you go from one place to another. I think more important not to have a singular design philosophy. I would say that one has to understand the context of the project wherever it is. Like, for example, working in India versus working in Singapore versus working in Europe, the context becomes completely different. The kind of buildings that you design, the kind of environment that you are responding to. For example, inside a room in all these three conditions, you're sitting in 25 degrees or 23 degrees. But outside in India, you could be at 50 in Delhi, right? You could be at 0 in Delhi also.
Yes.
While in Europe, you can be at -25. Inside remains comfortable the same.
Fair.
So the building technology changes completely and you have to respond to that as an architect, right? That's pretty much I would like to say.
Very interesting. In your view, how does the Indian architecture today compare with what's being built in West or Southeast of Asia?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because this is being discussed, at wide lengths across the industry. We always aspire to be the best when we start designing, but the product that comes out is a derivative of our capability to build. Now, the capability to design is there because it is more of an intellectual property for that matter. However, the ability to deliver a product which is compared to an international arena is very important to understand from the constraints that we have in our country. Whoever designs it with whatever software he does design with, whatever technology you use it, eventually it is built with hands of people who are not trained
Correct.
for the job that they are doing.
Absolutely, yes.
So we are many a times a victim of a certain circumstance, unfortunately, because of the number of hands available in our country. We think that we have enough people to work, as against another country where there are not enough hands. However, they have turned around the situation and mechanized things. They have modularized them. They have set up industries who does the work that hundreds of our hands do versus only 20 people there primarily. So I think that dilemma is an interesting one to understand the quality of construction that is an output in our industry from that perspective. So I would say we are learning quite fast and there is an element of jugaad. There is an element of affordability, which is very important because India is a very low cost based country primarily, right? So in that environment, you have to find the best of the solution with minimum of the cost primarily. And I think it is not a bad thing. It is a good thing. You always strive to find the best thing at the best value that you can get primarily. So I think that's how the Indian building industry is sort of evolving.
You think is India obsessed with the Western aesthetic while ignoring its own cultural context?
India is obsessed with anything that comes from outside, unfortunately. And it's not
Doesn't have to be West.
It doesn't have to be West. It's just something more exotic, something that you're always looking in screens, televisions, magazine,
Sure.
right? You still look at ads in India with clothing. People inside are European, unfortunately. Every ad, not
Very
one
well
or
said.
single ad.
Makes sense.
So our aspirations are shown in these ads from that perspective.
and they're only growing.
They're growing. Yeah. I mean, of course, now Indians are very modern. They are now comparing with anybody. Our fashion designers are top of the line across the world. Our animation industry, our advertising industry are doing amazing, in terms of anything for that matter. So I think there is a task. We are moving towards something very different.
Interesting.
And it will be defined very soon, I would say.
You talk a lot about sustainability and energy efficiency. How do you integrate these into a dense urban project, like mixed-use developments or high-rises?
Right. So I think let's understand it's not about being India or being in Europe or anywhere.
Okay.
Energy is a resource that is depleting.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about traditional energy or renewable energy or anything like that. We don't have energy for the rest of our lives. We all know that. So I think the minimum that one can do is to understand that what is your approach towards utilizing energy when it comes to building it, when it comes to finding products that could require a minimum of energy, when it comes to maintaining buildings, for example, right? So let us understand that if as an architect, I'm able to design a building which consumes lesser energy than my counterpart in an urban environment, I am able to offer my client the edge to take the same rent in any urban environment.
Yeah.
However, the client will eventually be paying lesser as a maintenance cost.
Fair.
So that makes him very competitive.
Interesting.
So that is how we can look at it
Good
primarily.
context to have when you
Yeah.
when you own the place. Can you share one project which you enjoyed working on? Of course, where
Yeah.
sustainable strategies they led to a
Sure,
tangible
sure.
performance improvement.
So it was a competition. We won, I would say, for a 3 million square feet office building in Pune for a Singapore client called Capital Land. And they do a multiple, you can say, IT complexes. ITPL in Bangalore is one of them. Of course, there are multiple buildings inside.
Mhm.
But this was a large project where they were looking for an answer where the rents in that location at that time was very competitive.
Okay.
So they could not invest in a building in terms of the capex. So what we told them is that we will design a building for you by studying the environment and using passive design techniques.
Okay.
And find ways of reducing the amount of sunlight that goes inside the workspace, for example.
Interesting. Okay.
The width of the workspace for an architect is very important because there is a certain distance from the glazing to which natural light reaches in. So when you design a floor plate, you have to maximize the amount of natural light that comes in. So automatically the usage of artificial lighting reduces for that matter.
Nice.
Now, when you allow the sun to come inside the building, you would want the light but not the glare. Now you start designing anti-glare things like sunshades and separators on the outside of the facade. That's where the cost goes out, right? So you have to find a good balance where you study using technology that what is the maximum impact of the sun in what areas of the building, and you design sunshades only on those areas to cut the glare. Now, a lot of people think that if a building is looking like this on one face, when I turn around, it should look the same. But actually, it's not required.
I know what you mean.
So
Yeah.
you should respond to buildings and architecture utilizing the constraint and the important things that are required to design the facade for that matter.
What's your take on green certifications in India? And do you think they've become more of a marketing tool than genuine sustainability tool?
Right. So I have a different take on that.
Would love to hear.
Architects are designed to are I would say are trained to design buildings which are the most energy efficient buildings.
Yeah.
American psychology is that they are ready to sell anything and everything in this world. Right? Now, since I worked in Europe, I realized that the Indian context of saving energy is very much ingrained in the Europeans as well. They don't talk about it too much. That's why this lead is from America and it is always, lead rated building. Europeans come, design, they do much better in terms of saving energy, but they don't talk much about it. It is ingrained in the thing. So I think all architects need to understand that, and I think they understand it very well. It is for a client to understand that, whether the certification is more important, or is it that the building has been designed with the correct ethos in terms of saving energy? What is it the certification is doing? Just confirming that you are trying to save energy.
Yeah.
But I think as an approach, if you have it, you don't need to sell it.
I know
It
what you
is
mean.
visible. The numbers will show. Your electricity will show. Your ability to recycle water, your ability to use materials which are, recyclable for that matter. There's a lot of talk on circular economy and
Yeah.
everything. So it is in our approach, I think. If I go back few years or say 2 generations, my grandfather and my father today save every bit of things. They don't throw things away. Our generation is not like that. We are the throw and forget
Yeah.
generation.
Replace generation.
Exactly. However, we have not learned that from our parents. Let me put it like this.
I remember being scolded for that.
Yes.
Ki, don't waste water.
Correct.
Light band karo.
Absolutely.
And of course, it was said in the most brash way.
Yes.
My father would say, "Bijli ka bill tera baap pay karega."
Yes.
You know, like I was scolded.
Correct.
I have it ingrained. I'm
Correct.
not doing that with my kids right
Yeah.
now. But anyhow, it's interesting.
But I think with resources depleting, our children are very conscious, I would say. You know?
That's true.
Yeah.
When they want to be.
When they want to be.
You've handled massive scale projects across verticals, right?
Right.
What's your approach to design when there are 50 plus stakeholders at the table? And any project disaster that turned into a valuable learning experience?
I think I'll tell you an example, not from India, but from outside. Yeah. So it was in Singapore that we were designing a building called Defense Medical Research Institute. That building, in today's context, is very important because at that time, Corona had not come.
Okay.
But we in Singapore were hit by a virus earlier, which was called SARS, right? And a lot of people died in Hong Kong in particular, and in China, and of course in Singapore. So we were commissioned by the government of Singapore and Ministry of Defense to design labs where they would do tests on bacteria, viruses, which are airborne.
Okay.
Right. Now, it was quite a sophisticated building with a huge amount of investment. One day, I received a call at 2 o'clock at night when the building was almost built. And after 3 days, the certification committee from World Health Organization was supposed to come there for certifying the labs. There was an overflow in the water tank on the top. And the whole building had water at every floor, one by one.
Okay.
So at 4 o'clock, we had the whole consultant team, contractors, project managers, client, Ministry of Defense, sitting across the table. We didn't find a room where all of us could sit easily.
Yeah.
And then that was the time when I realized that, to lead in a point where every bit of information or an idea from anybody can be so valuable, right? Yeah.
Wow.
So I think eventually for about 4 hours at 8:30 in the morning when we were having our fourth or fifth tea or coffee, we had a strategy in place where all the water in the next 6 hours will be taken off. Every lab would have to be tested in the next 24 hours. And by 48th hour, we were supposed to be back where we were 4 hours back.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of interesting. Exactly. Yeah.
Ooh, firefighting. Interesting. What's one piece of advice you'd give to young architects who are overwhelmed by project management?
Oh, it's a very relevant question.
Yeah.
So when I graduated and I worked for 4 years, I realized that I need to understand the importance of time and money.
Yeah.
A lot of architects who are very design oriented forget that there is an element of cost and time involved. So I chose to do a master's in project management to become a better architect as against all my colleagues. Not a single colleague who wanted to become back an architect. I mean, of course, there were engineers as well, but everybody wanted to become a project manager. But so I think it is good to understand and do project management course, but you need to know what you want to do after that. So being an architect, you are de facto a leader anyway.
Fair.
Right. Now, it takes time, experience, energy to understand the depth of every field that you de facto become a leader, but you don't have the nuances and the tools to be the leader. So you learn over a period of time.
Okay.
And I think being an architect, you can continue to be a very good project manager as well. De facto, you are the leader of all the consultants on any team. So I think it is quite important for young architects to understand that they are taught design in school. They are not taught how to handle money in college. They're not taught how to handle project management because somebody thinks project management is somebody else's job primarily. Right. So I think to be a true architect, you must be able to balance out every aspect of architecture, from the building industry, from the engineering industry, from the financial industry. When you are doing a hotel, you understand that ROE of a hotel is not 4 years, it is 8 years. And so you have to understand how to respond to that kind of an,
Fair.
as compared to doing a factory where the ROI is very different and the time of construction and design is so tight
Yes.
that you can't lose out on anything. So all aspects must be understood. And I think if you're ready to learn, you learn all the time. Design is something that you learn all your life anyway.
It's very interesting that you chose to do project management
Yeah.
later. I've come across people who practice for few years, many years,
Yeah.
and if it is even suggested to them, it just feels like that they think that they already have it or they already know it.
Yeah.
Learning kind of takes a hit when you lose that growth mindset.
I think if you look at all big architects, right, you will realize that first 20 years of their career or 25 years of their career, nobody knows them. They start at 25, they go up to 45, 46, 47. It is when they cross 50, then people start to realize that, oh, this is the gentleman who have done this building, and that building become famous.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you got 5 other buildings that, oh yeah, that building is also famous. So it takes time for our profession to mature. And because there are so many aspects of building industry, design industry, and the impact of them from the financial perspective, from constructability perspective,
Yeah.
So you must have patience.
Yeah, fair. And that's actually a great advice to the young guys. as well.
Absolutely.
That is what is lacking. Instant
yeah.
gratification is
Yeah.
required.
And all big
These days.
architects, even after becoming famous, they're always learning because the context is always different. They are asked, like, for example, an architect who's sitting in London, he has no idea about Indian architecture for that matter. But a client is ready to pay 10 times
Yes.
to that architect to come and do a building here in a city in our country, right? While an architect in India who may have a lot of experience and understanding of the culture, the client somehow has this fetish of getting that guy,
I get it.
right? So those guys understand that they have to learn what we have been learning all our lives.
Fair.
And they do that in a very short period of time. And you see the product. If you go, I'll give you an example. There is a Japanese architect called Maki and Associates, Fumihiko Maki. He has done a modern art museum in Patna, in Bihar.
Interesting.
It is one of the best architecture pieces right now in our country. A lot of people don't know
Wow.
that.
Would
Yeah.
definitely go there for
Yes.
sure. I want to talk to you about a little bit into the future, especially around our Indian cities. Do you think Indian cities are evolving in the right architectural direction?
Yeah, okay. So so we heard a lot of talk about smart cities, right?
Yeah.
I think first few years, there were hundreds of exhibitions and conferences around understanding what smart city is.
Exactly. Yeah.
They could not figure out the word smart, while Modi ji just gave it and say we'll do 100 cities of smart cities in India. So our cities, you don't need to create new cities which are called smart cities. Our same cities where you've been living, actually that word is not really nice, smart for that matter. You need to build sensitive cities. When I say sensitive, means they are sensitive towards the people who are occupants, visitors, and people who are going through those cities, right? Now, infrastructure for that matter, there is a huge push of it, which is amazing.
Yes.
All our train infrastructure, road infrastructure,
Airports.
of course, we
everything
have
is going
so
on.
many airports,
Ports.
coming up and
Yeah.
everything, which is going on amazingly. The roads in particular are the ones who still connect all these things. We are seeing some progress, but not as much. But I think our government is doing a great job. With the speed than the last 10 years that we have seen our infrastructure grow, we have not seen in the last 50 years.
That's true.
So we are already 5 times faster right
Fair.
now, for
Fair.
that matter. Let's talk about sanitation.
Hmm.
Our cities are very bad with sanitation. One is, of course, there is a mafia in majority of our cities with sanitation. The second is that people's consciousness is not there. They are always in a rush. They don't have time to understand that the paths that they are walking or the road that they are driving, they want their house to be spick and span. But the moment they come out of their door, They can throw
It's a different
things.
behavior.
It's a different
I don't
behavior.
own it. It's not mine to take care of.
So I think that sensibility they can learn from European cities. Even our smaller cities, old time, our uncles and everybody, they used to be very conscious. They would see a paper, they will pick it up on the road. No person today does that. We keep throwing things. I
It's
don't know.
not my job.
It's not my job. Yeah. So I think that sanitation aspect, and we are very good at complaining that our cities are dirty.
Yeah.
So I think it is very important to understand that all of us have that responsibility to go one step ahead and do our bit towards whatever you can do in terms of getting a clean environment, creating pollution when it comes to noise or air or water. We are very good at.
Yeah, we've got civil
We
rights.
got very good. Yeah. But we
And we know how to exploit them.
exactly. So everybody has to play their bit in terms of all these elements. And then of course don't dirty the
How many years were you there in Singapore for?
6 years in Singapore.
6 years.
Another
of
6. Yeah.
stringent rules and policy.
That is true. And it works, let me tell you.
Yeah, of
It
course. It
works.
does. The fines are heavy.
Heavy. Yeah.
They will, and they look down upon anybody who's littering, anybody who's doing any kind of nonsense here. They have designated small corners for smoking.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to smoke in public.
Absolutely.
And this is just one example. Chewing gum is banned.
Yeah.
In Singapore. And now we are here where we have free will
Yes.
to do whatever we want.
So I think that's another thing that you need to understand that the society, requires a little bit of mechanism to keep them tight, but don't tighten it to the point where he is afraid. You have to motivate him and him to become a part of the system where he is feeling responsible towards himself and his surroundings. I think if you are able
Tricky
to,
job, right?
well, everything is tricky. Life is tricky.
How do you change someone's habit of being more
It takes
responsible?
time for sure. But I think in our education system, both at home and in schooling and in college, of course, if basic societal manners become part of our learning,
This is how to coexist.
yeah, and consciousness is always questioned.
Coexistence
Yeah,
and consciousness
Yeah.
101.
Absolutely.
I think that course probably won't have a lot of people attending it, but
no, I
it's
think
something
I
important.
think you'll have a lot of people attending it. Believe me.
I hope so.
Believe me.
Should we be building vertical? What's your opinion? Or is low rise, dense development the future? What do you think?
I have a first-hand experience on this in Singapore.
Okay.
It is 65 kilometers one way and 65 kilometers other way.
Exactly.
And there you have no further space.
Yeah.
Right. Our cities in India don't learn from many of such places. Right. Over there, we design buildings, public buildings. 85% of the population live in those public provided housing by the government.
Okay.
Nothing is built in the first 3 floors. The first apartment is on the 4th floor.
Okay.
You see through the building. So you don't realize that there is a building sitting when you are walking,
Interesting. Okay.
right? So there is a landscape this side, there is a landscape that side, and there is a visual connect between them. What a simple thing.
So it doesn't feel like
I have done that in few of our projects, one in Hyderabad and one in Patna that I'm deciding right
very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So I think verticality is no problems. The issue is that it should not be for the reason that I want to show how big I am.
Right.
It should be for the reason that I'm trying to conserve land and disturb the land at the minimum size from the complete site that I want to build. And as a result, I am saving the trees which are on the land and not building on completely on the land.
Right.
So you can have cities which can be really, really green, where you build only in 20% of the plot, and that's 80% you just keep it to 3.
I think for some reason, the flex of being influential is still a lot bigger in our minds than the flex of being more responsible. And I think the flex of being more responsible is certainly more attractive. It's a beautiful quality in a human being if we find it.
Yes, that's right.
We were talking about the smart city mission.
Yes.
Fancy label or poor planning?
No, I think label is very important. People
Okay.
will not understand the importance of it.
Okay.
And I think Modi ji is very smart in labeling the way he is doing his schemes for that.
For sure,
matter.
yeah.
if people don't understand and are able to connect and have the inspiration to be part of that thing, it will fail. Look at it from that perspective.
Okay.
Now, the essence of doing smart cities is to modernize our environment and infrastructure in the background, which is what is happening right now.
Very nice.
It's just taking a little bit of time. So you have to look at popularism from that perspective while the real work is also happening.
I do hope to see better days when I'm 65. Like I'm thinking about retiring. I don't know.
It's like when I was a kid, my parents would tell me that, our roads will become better. I am today telling my kids our roads will become better. It's 50 years now.
We live for the hope of it, and we die for the hope of it. Working with developers and corporates, how do you protect good design from getting diluted by cost cutting?
So, cost cutting is not necessarily a wrong thing.
Okay.
In our consciousness, as I said earlier in my discussion, we always want to find the best value.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Now, the builder wants to maximize his earnings while he wants to pay as little as possible. I think we come into a picture where we give in a little bit of sensibility that there is value in investing a little bit more than what he's ready to invest.
Okay.
If you are able to showcase that his earning on that matter will become better.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. So it is how you throw your dice.
Fair.
Primarily.
And yeah, that's how you spin the narrative
Spin
in a way.
the narrative around. And I think the corporates have a certain corporate social responsibility towards anything that they do. And it is easier comparatively to advise them and to convince them for that matter.
Okay.
Builders, it depends upon whether it's a corporate, which will then fall into the other category. But if it's a single person, family driven thing, I think they learn over a period of time because as they grow, as they do one building, second building, 10th building, 20th building, they themselves realize that how much of the advice that they took from the consultant that they hire for specialist advice, or they hired the consultant, but they told them what to do.
What's if, by example, what's one of the toughest conversations you've had with a builder, and how did you win it, if you did?
I think it's not about winning, it's about convincing and educating.
Once you're able to do that, it's a win.
Yeah.
For both sides.
Yeah.
A win is a win.
Yeah. So all the time I'm telling my architects and my colleagues is that if we are able to ask the right questions for the problems, you will find the right answers.
Okay.
And if you are able to convince them that this is not the question, but actually that is the right question, you are able to make that difference, So, for example, there was a developer, I don't want to name anybody, but he wanted to do an office building, and his thought was that, I will do it at 2,500 rupees a square feet because I'm building a sizable building. And I understood what he wanted to do. So what I did is I collected some data of buildings which had 2,500 as the base price.
Okay.
And of course, I went up to 4,000 rupees as the base price. But I also took the data where by spending that money, what was the efficiency of maintaining then operating that building against what is the rent that is coming to those buildings.
Interesting.
Now you compare the capex versus opex versus return on investment. He's a smart guy. He's there to make money.
Oh, you kind of did his job for him in a way.
Correct.
Okay. Sometimes it's a different point of view
Right.
that helps you think clear,
Correct.
and you do get where he's coming from. So
Yes.
it's a naturally good dialogue actually to have.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. Let's have some fun.
He has hired me for that, I think.
That's fair. Okay, that's humble and fair.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun.
Absolutely.
Rapid fire.
Absolutely.
You already told me what's probably your favorite project right now in India. That's in Patna, right? Architect Maki, right? And what's the most inspiring building for you? And you've traveled across the world. One favorite building
Right.
that's most inspiring to you.
This building in Spain It's called the Museum of Modern Art. It is in, what is the name of that place?
Seville?
No. Mm,
For sure, it's not in Barcelona.
no, it's not. But the city is famous only for that building.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a Museum of Modern Art. It is by an American architect. Wow. It's been such a long time. And I've been there.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll give that name to you quickly.
Sure, why not? A city you just move to just for its architecture.
I think that's a very difficult question. Yeah. But I would say you will find a lot of nice buildings in Paris. Both historically and modern, and with the sensibilities of great thought process for that matter. Yeah.
They're very involved in their design, right?
They are very design conscious.
They made this tower, which is called the middle finger of Paris.
Hmm.
It's a black colored tower. Tower of Montparnasse.
Yes, Montparnasse.
Oh God!
Correct.
And there was a revolt. The Parisians, they did not allow another tower to be built within the city.
Yeah.
So any vertical
Right.
expansion
Right.
happens outskirts.
Right. Correct. That's right.
Beautiful, and they've maintained the landscape.
Yeah.
It's just
So we
amazing.
designed a tower in Dublin when I was working in Ireland. Everything was perfect. When we presented it to the town planners, they rejected it. You know what was the reason? We don't like it.
As simple as that.
As simple as that.
Did you ask them what can we do about it?
Easy.
How
We
do
don't like it. The look is not good enough. We don't like it.
Wow.
You know, that's it. So imagine the sensibilities that are there, the consciousness of those people there are there, and we had to redesign the whole tower just because they didn't like it.
Do you think
You know?
another 100 or 200 years of us being independent would get us there? Maybe that freedom of thought and choice will seep in.
It is to do with our education, believe me. We don't have art as a
Like a main
main education basis when we grow up. We study mathematics, we study physics, chemistry, you know, of course, culture and heritage we
Study to be
study.
professionals.
Yeah. But I think we don't study art. There is a very minimal appreciation and understanding of art unless you are at a certain financial level in our country. And that also is very different because sometimes it is more of an investment, you know, than anything else. But I think as a society, while everything else is important, appreciation of art is also very important.
Okay.
Yeah. And as a society, we will aesthetically grow better if we have that as our, you know, basis or foundation pillars primarily. Why European societies are so conscious about things? Because they are equally concerned about the environment around them and not in just their four, you know, walls in their house primarily.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Food for thought as well.
Yeah.
Had Doshi been here, Zaha Hadid or Bibi Doshi, who are you inviting to your dream dinner party?
Both of them.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Why choose?
Because no. See, Zaha Hadid's architecture is very form driven, but it evokes a certain feeling in people. Doshi does that. Not so much visually, but experientially.
Interesting.
So both of them are achieving the same aim, invoking inner consciousness of people to respond to something that they either see or feel.
Wow.
Both of them are saying,
Wow.
you know, and that's why both of them are great architects.
So they're both coming to the dream dinner party then. Yeah. One thing you'd choose to ban if given the power in the Indian architecture industry today. Or Indian architecture.
Yeah. I have one answer. Unskilled people on construction sites.
Nothing will ever get built wrong, but nothing will ever get built.
Yeah, I think that's
Oh God, that is a very big challenge in itself. Brutalism, love it or hate it.
To an extent, it's a little bit okay. but it came and it had its time and it is gone now. We are celebrating it in books and in magazines a lot, but we are not practicing it anymore.
Okay, we concur on this.
Yeah.
Completely. I've been reading
Yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
going through
Yeah.
so much of it in the past year.
Right.
I'm like, why are we doing this anymore?
Right.
It's done.
Right.
Awesome. Worst architectural trend you've seen in the last decade?
I think it's more than a decade. We are still trying to imitate Roman architecture with Corinthian columns and those cornices in the time that we have the best of technology to build a building. This was my pitch for a project that I won and it got built in Bangalore. It was for government of Karnataka. There were 20 senior PWD engineers sitting across the table.
Okay.
And I had an opportunity to do a auditorium for the government of Karnataka with 2,000 seater capacity. And it was that I said that we have the technology, the time is right. Why do you still want to go with your
Or they had
that thing that, government building should
look like a
look
certain
like
way.
that.
Yeah.
And today that building is literally flying, floating like a piece of UFO. And
I think we still have that colony mindset today.
I think it is changing. It is changing.
I hope so. Generationally, at least, I think it'll go away.
It'll go away.
What's your one architecture guilty pleasure? I don't know, over detailing, symmetry, I don't know, minimalism. What is it?
I think detail, they say God lies in detail, and I believe in it. There was my first boss, very famous architect in India called Abhimanyu Dalal. Every time we look at a drawing and we are drawing something, and then, you ask a question like, who is going to look at it? Like, you don't need to get into so much detail of that. And, his answer is, God is always looking.
Wow. Love it.
So, and I think he was right. And I pursue that quite well, easily, straight away. Yeah.
Lovely.
We just have to believe in it.
That's awesome. Ashish ji, I think I've had fun talking to you.
Lovely.
I would have chosen to have a much longer conversation with you because you have a perpetual infectious smile on your face.
Right.
Thank you for doing this.
Lovely.
Guys, this is Ashish Jauhri. I'm Rishabh Agarwal. We are at DR Build, and this is the Code, India's #1 construction podcast.